Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Austin Perry Show. I'm your host, Austin Perry, and today is Thursday, May 13th, 2021, and this is episode 37. And I have today with me on the Austin Perry Show a very important guest, the very famous resident alien expert, Carlos Campbell. Carlos, thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Carlos Campbell, and we're going to talk about aliens and anything extraterrestrial or out the ordinary. So I'm ready.
So we have a very jam-packed episode tonight here on the Austin Perry Show where we strive for elevated consciousness and enlightenment. And ladies and gentlemen, please visit my website. I think you'll really like it. Give it a look, give it a gander, check it out. It is austinperry.org, and that's spelled P-A-R-R-Y. That will really help out to support my video content into the future, and that's where you can find all of my work. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into tonight's information that we're going to talk about and to discuss and to analyze. And the first topic that we have tonight is here on the monitor, we have Antarctica. Very mysterious, very elusive, very strange topic of information to talk about, the continent of Antarctica, which is shrouded in mystery. Carlos, what's your take on Antarctica?
I started researching Antarctica probably like just 2 years ago because I was at a point in my life where I researched everything dealing with extraterrestrials, the metaphysical and stuff. And then when you research and stuff like that, it's always more new material. So something just popped up talking about Antarctica and stuff. And I'm like, that's interesting. It's right there. Why nobody been talking about this spot? And I always knew that scientists always came down and visited, and different nations came down and stuff. But when I started thinking about it in like social media or in the movie industry and stuff, the first thing I think of is the movie The Thing, and then Alien versus Predator, and then other movies. I think like even like with Superman and stuff, I'm like, it's something. It has to be something hidden in Antarctica. And then I think of like the Pangea and stuff when we were all one continent. And then
Right.
even with the poles flipping and stuff like that, Antarctica was not always at the bottom. So I started thinking, I'm like, it wasn't always ice. I'm like, so what was there before? They could be ancient artifacts and dinosaur bones and even underground lakes under there.
Yeah, that is very interesting. The magnetic poles actually have shifted several times throughout history. And because of this, there could have been a much different environment in Antarctica several hundreds of years ago, potentially millennia ago. And Antarctica is one of those places where humans are not allowed to go, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people who want to maybe visit Antarctica, maybe go on a cruise down to Antarctica or something like that, you're actually not even able to because it is a protected area by the different groups and organizations that have formed. And so it is unreachable to most of humanity, and so that makes it even more mysterious. What is going on down in Antarctica? Is there indeed a very large ice wall? This could just be icebergs, in my opinion. Or is there military bases happening? I think that's very possible because the military is everywhere in the world. So of course we have at least an outpost there with at least a couple planes and a couple tracked vehicles and things of this nature. And Carlos, what do you think about potentially visiting Antarctica in the future? Would you go?
I would say it's too dangerous. I would love to visit and take a selfie out there just to put my GPS location there. But I think it's one of those places where scientists could do research and stuff, but it's like, what are they researching? Because they could find a lot of fossils and like different type of ancient bacteria or different life forms that's preserved in ice. That's the best way to keep it preserved. But when I was talking about the underground lakes, there's been stories circulated about there's underground lakes, freshwater lakes or saltwater lakes, where there's different types of ancient animals that haven't been discovered under there. So they had one of a squid. It was like highly intelligent, and then it like took out almost half of the team, and it like shapeshift, and it had like psychic like abilities and stuff, and it could like mimic the divers and stuff. So that, even though it's probably a made up story, that isn't too far fetched from reality.
It sounds like it could be the Kraken.
Mm-hmm. Anything like that. Well, a smaller version because the Kraken is giant, like the size of an island.
So how large was it? Like the size of like a small car, or smaller
I'd
than
say
that?
like an island, like a piece of Hawaii.
Really? The
Yeah,
Kraken or
The Kraken.
the squid?
No, the squid's probably like the size of probably like 10 feet long. But there's other stories about Antarctica, because some people say that could be where Atlantis have been, but I don't agree with that, because Atlantis could be in the Atlantic Ocean, because people think of it as one solid continent, but it's like a chain of different continents. That's where you got the Bermuda Triangle,
Right.
and different under like the coast of Cuba and everywhere, like in the Bahamas, there's like different was it like roadways and stuff, like structures, man-made structures that's underwater.
Wow.
But yeah, Antarctica is a big mystery. I don't know if there's more research or more stuff coming out of Antarctica, but it's a good place to hide if you're like visiting a planet. If you're from another planet, the best place to hide out is in a place where there's not a lot of people. And I think our government's seen something interesting out there.
Right.
So it's a
potentially
great-
aliens?
Yes, it's a great base of operations, and but I don't know what the world governments is trying to do. I don't know if they're trying to colonize Antarctica, because it can't be colonized. But if we're trying to colonize the moon and Mars, why won't they just start in Antarctica? So I think it's something hidden in there. There's been different Google photos of pyramids in Antarctica, because there's pyramids everywhere. There's pyramids in
Right.
Mexico, Egypt, of course, China, even in India. So what if there are pyramids in Antarctica? So
And they say, oh,
I
well,
think
we
they
could.
found something.
Yeah, and they say we could colonize Mars, we could colonize the moon. Well, they think of Antarctica as such a cold Arctic tundra climate, and so it would be very hard to colonize. But actually, that's even easier to colonize than, say, the surface of the moon or the surface of Mars, which has no atmosphere. At least in Antarctica, you have an atmosphere, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is very plausible that we could potentially colonize Antarctica. And then also, it's very interesting how you were saying about undiscovered animal species that may be existing in the continent of Antarctica. Very similar to how where they thought it was impossible for life forms to be in very deep ocean waters, they've actually discovered life forms near ocean vents where it is sprouting out thermal hot water. And because of that and high salt content, there's actually animals that are able to live in those environments when it was thought that they were not able to. So what animals do you even think about when you think of Antarctica? Like penguins, maybe seals or walruses or polar bears or something like that. So people don't really think about there might be way more than just those basic animal species when you just think about what type of animals are living in Antarctica. And another thing I wanted to mention about Antarctica before we switch topics and switch gears here is about how after WW2, World War II, there was the Antarctic Treaty, which was signed into existence as international law, which over 70 countries signed onto. And because of this, no country has developed Antarctica, no country has drilled for oil in Antarctica, and this has been the longest standing international treaty in human history. So it's going on like 80 years now that the Antarctic Treaty has stood as a peaceful treaty between over 50, 60, 70 countries. I forget the exact number, but it's a lot. And so that's very unprecedented, and it's a very strange and very thought-provoking, very interesting, very intriguing. What is actually going on in Antarctica as to why there is a peace treaty, which no country has drilled for oil. They drill for oil at the North Pole, you better believe it. Not Antarctica, folks. So that's something that I encourage everyone to research for yourself. Don't take my claims as truth. This is all analysis and speculation that we're talking about here. I encourage everyone to do your own research and to look at these topics for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our little mini deep dive with the resident alien expert, Carlos Campbell. Thank you so much for your analysis on Antarctica. And let's go ahead and move on now to the next topic of information that we're going to discuss and to analyze here on episode 37 of the Austin Perry Show. And the next topic is AI. Ladies and gentlemen, AI is an ever-growing presence. It is getting more advanced. It seems as though it may be taking over, or is it our friend? Is AI actually an ally? Carlos, what are your thoughts on AI?
So I'm glad you brought this topic back up again, because we deep dive on so much stuff, but it's so much more stuff to talk about. So we could talk about cyborgs, how we humans are going to evolve using artificial intelligence, and how we're going to combine with it in the future. So right now we use cell phones, we have it to our ears, we carry it everywhere we go, so we're technically cyborgs. Even with laptops, we have it with us on our laps,
right,
and stuff. But it's going to be a time where Americans are going to be too lazy, and then they just going to be like, I'm tired of picking up a phone, I want the chip in my head or something like that, or a hologram. So there's going to be devices in the future where you could just press a button on your head, an implant, and then be like, hello? Yeah? All right. Because we have a lot of technology where you could have where people have lost an arm, where they have an appendage, and then they could just use the electromagnetic field in their arm and then use the hand. So I don't know how soon it's going to happen, but I think we're slowly merging into cyborgs. So, but with the whole artificial intelligence, I think it's up to us to see where it will go. We are the parents of artificial intelligence. If we don't if we don't use the artificial intelligence for bad stuff, then bad stuff won't come. But if we use it for weapons and all this other stuff, then that's all they're gonna know. So if you grow up knowing all about war, that's all you're gonna produce, even if it's in a negative or positive way. So we have to find a way to use artificial intelligence as a device to help heal Earth, because that's our number one thing we need to do is heal Earth, and we won't have to worry about going to Mars or other planets. We'll deal with that later, but we have to stabilize our planet first. We can't go to Mars if we can't even handle Earth.
So we have to coexist with nature and robotics at the same time. It has to be a harmony. It has to be a balance. And I think it's very interesting how you were talking about how we already have our cell phone. It's always in our pocket. And then also we have the laptop. And then the next step was the watch, the digital watch.
Oh, yeah.
You got the iWatch, you got the Android watches, stuff like this. And then you just whoosh, flick it over and you can see the screen right there. And so that was the next step. And then the next step after that, I believe, is like the Google glasses. Or any of the smart glasses where you can see it right on your lens. And so that's the next step. And then the step after that would be implanted microchips, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is how they lull you into the robots who could potentially be our friends. Maybe we can coexist like Carlos is talking about. We can potentially have a harmony, but we need to know where the boundary lines are. And we need to know where we're willing to draw a line in the sand saying, okay, this is too much technology, too many robots, too much mechanisms which are inhabiting my personal space. So you have to make that own decision on your own, folks. Everyone has their limit of how much computers and technologies that they want in their own life. And so that is questions that everyone should think about going into the future. And the AI potentially, Carlos, could be like a situation where in the TV show Star Trek, you just say, computer, please tell me the answer to this question, and then it answers back. Mm-hmm. And so we already kind of have this with Alexa and with different types of home assist devices, which are little cylindrical speaker devices which you can talk to. And so these are already our AI friends, and they are friendly to us, and they are non-threatening, and they actually help us to succeed in life. And so, ladies and gentlemen, AI technology is very interesting. I think it is the future. It is something that everyone should think about. How is AI going to affect my life? And how much AI do I want? Because we don't want to become the Borg, but at the same time, we don't want to be caveman, and we recognize how technology does help our life in certain aspects. I mean, the very simple wheel is a type of technology. The flame created with a flint is a type of technology. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that everyone should be thinking about, AI going into the future. So there you have it. That's our analysis on the topic of AI. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic now, which is the topic of movies, ladies and gentlemen. And I love movies myself. I love sci-fi movies. I love comedy movies. I love action movies. I love thriller movies. I love drama movies. I love martial arts movies. Carlos, what are some of your favorites?
Sci-fi, action. I used to watch action movies all throughout the 90s, so I'm pretty done with action movies. I can still watch them, but now I'm all about sci-fi, and comedy will be timeless.
Right. Laughter is good for the soul.
And dramas and thrillers. Scary movies aren't scary to me anymore, so I like thrillers where it's like psychological thrillers where you have to think, and
right.
Suspense and mystery
right,
movies.
Suspense
I love
and mystery
now.
Yep.
But the reason why I wanted to bring up this topic is the movie culture, Hollywood culture is subliminally putting messages in our heads and ideas in our heads, and kind of like showing some previews. But I think it's kind of like shifting people's minds and thinking about different topics and stuff, because if it wasn't for the movie industry, I wouldn't even be interested in aliens or anything like that.
Right.
Even though I read a lot of books when I was younger about UFOs and stuff, but Hollywood and the movie industry just plays a key point on how the culture is moving. So I'm trying to think what, like now it's been like this for a while. The I guess it's like military movies where they show like even espionage thrillers, and I think they're trying to, like, with the directors, I think they're trying to show us that some of this is real. Sometimes it's dramatic, but the different pieces and parts of it is real. Kind of like the stereotypical undercover cop movie,
Right.
where they just go on looking for a killer and then find out it's somebody in the police force that's the crooked one or whatever. I think stuff like that happens for real, and it brings a lot of ideas and previews to the future. So it's like a type of art. So I like that people give directors a chance, because sometimes it'd be like some low budget movie or the story doesn't add up, but as time goes on, you're like, oh, I appreciate it now. So it's so many good movies. But I think Hollywood has an agenda to try to make people think of different topics according to what season it is or climate.
Absolutely, and I think that they are definitely trying to pass things off as something that would be sci-fi or something that would be fictional, but in real life it's actually happening. And so this is how they do this with the different movies that they come out with. And I'm actually not a fan of horror movies. I do like suspense though, which has elements of horror in it. And I also really like medieval fantasy movies is one of my favorite genres, such as like wizard movies or anything that has to do with like elves or dragons or like dwarves or like stuff like that. And like Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite movies. The Matrix movies are some of my favorite movies. And then there's a few other ones that I really like that are some of the top ones. But ladies and gentlemen, I also agree with you. Carlos, I wanted to tell you also that you're right about how it's an art form. Like, I think actually cinema is the ultimate art form, because it encapsulates and includes all other art forms into one.
There's so many elements.
Exactly. And so you can have a painting in a movie. You can have a song in a movie. You can have a novel in a movie. And so it really is the ultimate art form because it's all other art forms wrapped into one. And so it's such a great expression of storytelling, movie making, cinematography, video production is one of the ultimate art forms, like you were talking about, Carlos.
So I had a question about that. What do you think is going to be, since the pandemic happened, what do you think is going to be the future of cinema? Is everything is going to be on streaming, or you think it's going to still have, are people still going to go to movie theaters?
I think movie theaters are dead. No one really goes to movies anymore, which is sad because I like movies. And honestly, I'm part of that issue myself because I literally used to go to movies 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah, I'll go
my
by
whole
myself.
life. Like ever since I was a little kid all the way up until like 2017 or something, I would literally go to the movies like 2 to 3 times a week. It was like literally part of my psychological process. Like it was what made me who I am. It was like part of my mental conditioning, folks. And honestly, I reached a point where I could kind of look a little bit deeper into the storytelling. Whereas when I was younger, the movies would have a different type of effect on my mind. Now I view the movies differently because I'm wiser and I have more information in my brain. And so I can analyze the movie in a different way than I could when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And but I honestly have stopped going to the movies because, first of all, I have a very large movie collection and I watch movies at my house. And then also a lot of the new movies I think are not as good as the older movies. I think it was like 2010 and after, the movies, I don't know why, for whatever reason, they just started going downhill, folks.
And I hate when they show, now the new trend is they'll show the whole movie in the trailer. The first trailer or the second trailer, they'll show the whole movie. So I'm going to see the movie. I'm like, all right, this is going to be good. And I'm like, oh, I just seen that scene. I'm like, it's something going to be new. They show everything, but I think it's the, I don't blame the directors or anybody doing that. I blame the people because a lot of people have short attention spans, and in the movie industry, they spend so much, they spend $1 million, like $1 million budget on movies and stuff, over millions. And then they have to make that money back. So I understand, but don't show the whole movie. But I understand a lot of people have short attention spans and they see something like, or whatever. Or they'll look at a movie, they'll look at Rotten Tomatoes or whatever and be like, is this movie good? Or look at other people to see if the movie good instead of just giving it a chance. Because if you're not interested, then don't watch the movie.
Yeah, a lot of these previews they come out with, they have all the key scenes, and you're expecting that they're actually rolling the B-roll scenes, like the cutout scenes that didn't make it. And then so when you go and see the movie, it's even better than the preview, and you're like so amazed and blown away. But they put all the key integral scenes into the trailer. You watch the 2-minute trailer, you saw the whole movie. It was just a condensed form of it.
I think that's why the new Mortal Kombat movie had a bad review, because they basically showed the whole movie on the trailer. And I gave it a chance. I give it a 7 out of 10, but I give it a chance because they working with a low budget and it shows so much promise or whatever. It shows so much anticipation for the next one. So I'm ready to see what they're gonna do next with it. But if everybody hates it, then they're never gonna have a chance. So I think people should give movies a chance because it's better than nothing. Because a lot of people hate the Street Fighter movie and the original Mortal Kombat movie and like all these other good movies. I'm like, those movies were good.
I actually
it's better
love
than
those
nothing.
movies. I love martial arts movies. It's one of my favorite genres. I love fighting scenes. And one of my favorite actors, while we're talking about movies, is actually Bruce Lee. I love Bruce Lee. I think he was one of the integral actors of his time who really changed how acting and movie making was done. He was actually one of the best early martial arts fighters that they put into a movie, and so the fight scenes looked so real, and Bruce Lee was really a master at that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is our analysis on different movies and cinematography. And if you like movies as well, give us some feedback and let us know what are your favorite movies. So let's go ahead and move on now, Carlos, to the next topic. and that is video games.
Yeah, that's PUBG back there.
I love PUBG. It's one of my favorite games, actually. I could play this all day. But I love video games in general. Starting out with some of the early consoles, Nintendo Original, Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast. I used to have all these. Did you have those systems?
I didn't have a Dreamcast. I had the NES, Sega Genesis, then Nintendo 64, and stuff.
GameCube was really good. I remember Super Smash Brothers
GameCube
was one of the best games. And so we've evolved playing video games from a very young age, ever since we were infants. I was born in 1989, ladies and gentlemen. They had Super Mario Brothers by 1989. I mean, they had Pong back in, what was it, the early 60s? Was when like the first video simulator games came out.
Atari.
And this was state of the art. It was considered basically futuristic back in the day, just to have a little joystick with like a couple of pixels moving on the screen.
And that's weird. Those games are still fun to this day. And then why I wanted to bring this topic up is just like the movie industry. I think the gaming industry is trying to change the thinking of the culture, or put some stuff in our head, because I never really I probably shot like a little rifle or whatever, but I never really shot a real gun or anything, no military training. And just by playing Call of Duty and all these other shooter games, I know about a SCAR, I know a Car 98, I know an M416, I know AK, I know 7.62 ammo, I know 5.56, I know all these things, and don't even know anything about weapons. So if I think they're trying to get people, I guess it's military propaganda. Like if I was to join the military right now, I would know every gun that they'll show me, because just by playing video games. And it's not even just military video games, just like Resident Evil video games and stuff.
Yep.
So it's interesting.
First person shooters.
Yeah, first person shooters. And it's interesting. Even with economics, I used to play Roller Coaster Tycoon on PC.
Oh, I love that game.
Just by playing that game, I know so much about economics and supply and demand, just the basics, just by playing a video game. So it's interesting. Even with the PC game Fallout, I learned so much about people skills and how people interact and stuff, and how to get out of certain situations and stuff. So even with Grand Theft Auto, knowing about navigation and stuff, because I know I could like pick out just a random person that played the game, and they'll know the whole map by heart. I could just put a map out. I'm like, where's so and so at? They'll be like, oh, this club is right here, and this is where the docks is at and stuff. So I think video games have a bad rep because of the violence and stuff, but I don't think video games make people violent. I think the world and the violence in the world make people violent, and the neglect. I say a person that's getting bullied in high school or middle school will affect them way more than a video game showing somebody getting their head cut off and stuff like that, because video games are fantasy and reality hits you different. You could be in a video game and then like let's say you out in the jungle in a video game, and then a tiger comes out, you're like, oh shit, and then you fight the tiger and stuff. Or like Tomb Raider, she fighting a bear, versus you going out in the woods for real and a grizzly bear pops up. It's two different things. It affects you differently if you live through it. But I hate the whole stigmatism of people saying, the news saying video games are violent. I think if you raise your children right, they won't be violent, because I played the most violent video games and stuff, and I don't want to kill anybody or hurt anybody.
Exactly.
Especially with Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly, and that's the argument. Is a lot of people on a daily basis, people that you know or you yourself watching this video, play violent video games very regularly and never commit any violence. So this is evidence and proof right here that violent video games don't make you a violent person, ladies and gentlemen. And I think it is very true that over time, the video game companies have been molding our minds and have been conditioning us in certain aspects and training us to be like how you were saying, it could be combat training subconsciously, how you know about all of the guns already, even though you haven't shot them in real life. But because of this digital training, it's actually taught us a lot of different things that we wouldn't otherwise know about. And it goes to show you how some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, audible learners, some people are kinetic learners. Those are like the 3 basic types of learning. And so visual learning would be like watching a video like you're doing right now. You're watching us here on the Austin Perry Show. Or a auditory learning, audio learning would be listening to an audiobook, listening to a professor lecturing. And then the third type would be kinetic learning, and then which would be like
hands-on,
building something out of wood, or building a birdhouse or something like that would be a type of. You learned how to build a birdhouse by doing it. That was kinetic learning. And then you could say that video games are like a kinetic digital learning, because you're using your hands to control the controller, and so it's a combination of audio, visual, and kinetic. And so maybe it's one of the ultimate versions of learning. Who knows? This could be the future, ladies and gentlemen. This could be the friendly AI that is our friends.
It's weird. Like when people think of video games, they think it's like immature, or you're too old to be playing video games. But some video games are very interesting. It's a lot of intellectual. It's like a lot of problem solving and different skills and stuff. Like Tomb Raider, that's one of those games I used to sit there and just be like mad for like hours, well not hours, days, and then I finally figure out the clue, and I'm like, oh, and then it all adds up, because it makes you think. I like critical thinking, and a lot of people think video games is just all like, oh, I'm gonna run and shoot somebody and yell and stuff, or it's just like all Fortnite and stuff, like jumping around and being silly, or just fighting and stuff. It's a lot of intellectual games too that like help you think, because right now they got apps where you play like Sudoku and Words with Friends and stuff, or different like mind influencing games and stuff. So video games is the same thing. So I hate that stigmatism too, like, oh, you're immature, you play video games, and it's really not like that.
It's not. And then you think about also, if you take a high paying skilled job, say you're training to how to do an excavator, or you're training how to do like a large drilling operation, or you're training how to fly an airplane. You will practice in a simulator, ladies and gentlemen, which is essentially a very high level, high IQ, high focus video game. And this is the same thing with surgeons, how they have the surgery machines, which have very small robotic arms, so they can do much more intricate work and sew a stitch much more tightly, and so it heals much better. And so they will practice how to use this on an actual body in a simulation first, ladies and gentlemen. So video games actually have a lot of real world applications, and I think that it is one of the ultimate forms of learning. What do you think?
Yes, I think I used to play this flight simulator. I'm glad you brought that up. I think if you put me in an airplane right now, I would know like the basics on how to fly, and the thrust and the drag and the lift and stuff. I was just like, it's weird. Like, just by playing video games, I know something. I wouldn't be a good pilot, but just by knowing those little basic skills, if someone was to teach me, I would just learn just right.
You already got a head start.
Yeah. So,
you already got a foot up on someone who wouldn't have played these video games. You already have that knowledge base that's formed in your mind.
But I don't know if everybody would like be open to video games and stuff, because it still has that stigmatism or whatever. But we'll see what happens 10 years from now. But right now, video games are immature. They're for kids to play and stuff. So let's see what happens.
Very interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is our analysis and our discussion on the topic of video games. Let's go ahead and move on now to the next topic. And what we have here now, ladies and gentlemen, is streaming services and digital media. And so digital media has taken over. Everything is on the cloud now. A lot of people don't have hard copies of actual CDs of music, or DVDs of movies, or cassettes, or vinyl. everything is now just saved on the digital cloud, and we have these streaming services who are bringing us a lot of this digital media. It has affected our lives in various different ways. We no longer have a lot of different types of machines to show us and listen to the same things. Now everything is just at a touch of a button on one of our many different devices that are hooked up to the internet. And so, Carlos, what are your thoughts on streaming services and digital media?
I think the future, there will be no more CDs. I say in about 20 years, you won't even see a CD player. I mean, not CD player, but an actual CD disc drive. And now they're selling external hard drives. The video game industry is keeping up with that. So now that I have my Xbox One, this is the first time I had a game system where I don't have all the CDs. I used to have, the first Xbox, I used to have a tower like stacked this much of CDs. Now all the games I have are digital. I probably got like one or two CDs, but like 90% of all my video games I play is digital. And the same thing with DVD players. Now everybody has smart TVs. I won't need one because I have the Xbox One. So now the digital media apps, you could download it on there, so I'll be watching YouTube. I got HBO, Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff, Amazon Prime. So now everything is all digital and stuff. It's not going to be any physical copies. And the reason I wanted to bring up this topic is now they're trying to make all the books digital. And I think that's a red flag, because what if someone just decided burn up all the physical copies of books and everything is just on media? They could, on a digital platform, they could easily just edit it and erase it, and no one would know. It would be like 100 years from now. You'd be like, oh, I thought they said this on a book. And then it's like, since we dealing with the cancel culture and blocking everybody from different stuff, from freedom of speech, it'll be hard to keep a historical amount of stuff only on digital media. And I think they're trying to do that to control the narrative. And who is they? I don't know, but
Who knows? Different people that are high level, high power. But so you're saying it would be easy to manipulate and change history if everything was switched over to a digital media platform. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not, I don't know. We are simply talking about these topics. This is not truth or fact. But also, the thing with digital media is it is much more efficient to watch it in that form and to store it in that form. But it could be good, ladies and gentlemen, to keep your DVDs or CDs or vinyl or cassettes and hard copy, because even though it's not as efficient to watch it or listen to it in that format, because it takes more time and energy to have to put it in, take it out, blah, blah, blah. Instead, you can just press buttons to listen to it or watch it. But if you keep these hard copies, if you keep the CDs, you keep the cassettes, you keep the vinyls, they are considered collector's items now. And so now they are collectibles, which are valuables. And you can sell them on like eBay or any of these other collector's sites. So over time, they appreciate in value is what I'm saying. And so even though people are switching over to cloud-based storage for a lot of these medias that they consume, it is still good to have the hard copies of the different types of media that you like to watch and listen to also.
And I was just thinking about the ancient Egyptians and the hieroglyphics. Imagine if they didn't post up all those carve out all those hieroglyphics and all this information and carving in the stones and stuff. Imagine if they just had it all in digital media, and then something happened where they get a cyber attack, or just the grid gets shut down and stuff. They have nothing to fall back on. And even at my job, we sign in on a computer, and we also physically sign in a sheet. And that's with like a lot of federal jobs or anything dealing with security, because they know something could happen where the grid goes down and all the electricity goes down, and then all they have to do is rely on just physical copies. That's where you get the Dead Sea Scrolls, physical copies.
Right. There's definitely something to be said for having actual books, having the hard copy. Like you said, it couldn't be hacked, it couldn't be edited, it couldn't be changed within these cloud-based systems. So while there is a benefit to having cloud-based information, there are also drawbacks, just like anything, folks, pros and cons.
And another thing I wanted to add with the Netflix thing and how the industry is trying to change the narrative. They have different crime shows and stuff, and they'd be like, "Are they guilty?" or stuff. And then now, once they put a different documentary out, then everybody's tuned in, and then they like, "Oh, so and so is guilty," and then they finally get them guilty. I think that's bad because they just had the Neverland, Surviving Neverland thing or whatever, trying to demonize Michael Jackson. And in reality, Michael Jackson never touched any of those kids, and he got acquitted for all, I think, 14 or 16 charges or whatever, because they just have his lawyer on DJ Vlad show on YouTube. So now he's talking about what he had to go through and how all these people was lying on him and stuff. So a lot of people today still think Michael Jackson's a pedophile, and it's crazy. He's not a pedophile. They had the FBI raid his ranch, and then they didn't find anything relating to little kids or anything. Anything they found was like adult stuff. It wasn't nothing dealing with underage stuff or anything sketchy. He had all the stuff a regular grown man would have. So it's bad how these documentaries are like changing the narrative, because what's going to happen is going to be just as much people getting wrongfully accused of something. Because I haven't watched the Tiger King. Have you watched that?
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it yet either.
So I haven't watched it, but now everybody's on a campaign of Carol Baskins, because from what the clips I've seen, she's obviously guilty or whatever, but
I think we're like the only two guys that haven't watched Tiger King yet, actually.
But it's like the whole, like if you see in like third world countries, you see everybody throwing a stone at somebody. They don't even know what happened. They're like, "Oh, so-and-so raped somebody, or so-and-so stole something," and then you just see people just walking up and throwing stones. This is what is happening on a social level. People are throwing stones but don't really know the details. And when I research something, or if I see something, I'm going to do a lot of research. I'm going to become obsessed with it, and I'm going to see all different aspects of it. I'm not going to see something and just assume of one little clue. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, they did it." So this is digital slander. Is going to be crazy in the next few years.
And
it could happen to anybody too.
I will say Michael Jackson is an extraordinary musician, ladies and gentlemen. And so let's go ahead and move on now from digital media and streaming services. That was very thought-provoking. Thank you, Carlos. The last topic that we have to talk about tonight is pertaining to relationships, ladies and gentlemen. And there is the new modern culture where women say, "I don't need no man, I'm independent." And Carlos, what's going on with this hoe culture?
Oh man, where do I start? It started with the hot girl summer. Well, it's been going on before that, but the hot girl summer made it official. Because before there was a time where women were subliminal and didn't speak up and just didn't tell the truth about anything. So now a lot of the negative women, or not even negative, just free-spirited women, are now speaking up and saying, "Oh, we about to go out, we about to take all these dudes' money. I'm independent, I don't need nobody," or whatever. "I got my friends," and stuff like that, which is okay. But now they're mad and they're sad, and they're taking it out on men, and men haven't really done anything. It's like girls will go through 2 relationships that went bad, and then it's the end of the world, versus guys, we just dust ourselves out and try to find a girl that looks better than the last one. So a lot of the YouTube channels are now talking about this topic, and it's weird because I hated the whole relationship topic because it's been reoccurring all the time. But now all the podcasts and blogs and different people are speaking about relationships and stuff. But because it is interesting, but I think the key to end all of this is put your ego aside, because all of these negative interactions with women or even men talking down on women or women talking down on men is really their ego. Even in my dating life, I met a few wonderful women and I met a lot of negative women, but the common denominator is only met their ego. I never met their true self, how they really feel behind closed doors. It was just always ego. It was always pitting on a show, and it's like defensive. And I'm at a point in my life where I'm not gonna put my guards up anymore or whatever. I keep like a little shield up, but eventually I'm gonna lower my guard because I know we're all human and we deal with stuff. So it sucks that the modern women, they want somebody to be the provider and take care of them and stuff, but they don't have nothing to offer other than sex. So it's weird because they'd be like, oh, I could be loyal, and loyalty is like normal for a normal person. Like loyalty isn't nothing like, especially with me, because I have no expectations. If a girl I'm dating change her mind or just cheats on me or whatever, I'm gonna just move on to the next. So it's like, what do they have to offer, and is this new hot girl movement, are they happy with it? What's some of your experience with these modern women?
I think a lot of these women have the attitude that I don't need no man and I'm just going to do me and I'm going to have sex with a bunch of guys and not ever have a deep emotional connection because, like you said, they have put these shields up, they put up these boundaries. And I think it's because they might have had a bad experience once or twice, they had a bad relationship where it didn't work out, or maybe they have daddy issues. And then they basically become very isolated, very internally sheltered, to where they don't want to open up, they don't want to have a true connection, they don't want to experience love anymore. And they just become much more focused on materialistic things and more selfish things. And like you were saying, the ego is what drives them after they've had the heartbreak, which we all go through the heartbreak. At some point in your life, you might have experienced heartbreak at a young age, and you're supposed to build upon that and experience growth and become a better person. You're not supposed to let it just destroy your life and make you a selfish, egotistical person.
And it's weird because I've been saying this for years, that women with high standards, they want this certain type of man or whatever, but they don't even think that what if that man doesn't like them, or they're the girl that the man likes. So now it's just playing back, and they have other people like Kevin Samuels and all these other people speaking. Shout out to Fresh and Fit podcast.
Hey.
They are explaining to women that these guys don't even want them. So they're like they have to face the reality, like, if I do date these high value men or wealthy men, successful men, they're going to end up getting cheated on. And that's one of the main reasons why they're in the position that they're in, because they let their guards down. They fell in love with a guy, and then the guy took advantage of them because they're either egotistical or they just taking advantage of the situation, just arrogant. So now they're like, okay, I'm not about to deal with these guys. These guys are broke. And when women say the guy is broke, they mean the guy is making the same amount of money as them. So if you're not making double the amount of money the woman is making, then you're called a broke guy. But that's okay. But but with it's weird because with women now, they have a chance. They got cheated on. Now they have higher standards. They find this wealthy guy, and this wealthy guy don't give a shit about them. So the wealthy guy is like, I'm gonna cheat on you too, and then they'll be like, oh, I don't care. I'm making this money anyway or whatever. But I'm like, that's freeloading. What do you have to offer in the relationship? So that's what I can conclude with all this modern women culture is, what do they offer in the relationship?
Yeah, and it's like, don't sit at the table if you're not bringing anything to offer. And ladies and gentlemen, I think another thing too is how a lot of women have lost their feminine energy and they are channeling masculine energy, and they're, wanting to go get that CEO position, or they want to have the fat bank account and drive the Mercedes all on their own, not with any help of a man. And so this causes them to take on the masculine energy and to try to channel that a little bit. And so it takes away, I think, from the femininity. And so maybe that potentially might be an issue as well. But at the same time, I think that there should be a symbiosis, a good relationship between the man and the woman. And I think that they do have their different types of roles. Like back in the day, it used to be the man was the breadwinner, and then the woman would tend to the children. And so that was kind of the natural order. Things have shifted now, and I think that's completely fine. People live different lifestyles. People are different. But it could potentially be why some women are acting more like men and not being as feminine as they could be, which could present them with a different outcome or a different type of relationship experience, which they could be craving, but they can't get it because of their actions.
And I'm okay with the women that think they're use masculine energy or they're independent and stuff, but are they happy inside, deep down inside? Are they like okay with being single and just living their life single and stuff? But a lot of these women have mental illnesses, or they temperamental, or they mad. Versus me, let's say if I'm 60 years old and single, I'll still be happy with myself. So with the whole women dynamic or whatever, are they really happy being single like a man? Because they don't even like deal with what men deal with. Like when a man walks in the door, when women look or whatever, they looking like, does he have any money? Does he dress nice? Does he look nice? Because everything goes down, all the attributes of a man goes down to wealth, because
Status.
you have great hygiene or whatever that has to do with wealthy people. You dress nice, wealthy people. They say women look at the shoes first, even though they be wearing some dirty ass shoes. They look at the guy, they're like, he has to have clean shoes. And the thing is, like, clean white shoes, they look great, but that represents royalty and wealth. Teeth got to be perfect, clean. You have to be an authority figure. You have to have that confidence. They're like, oh, I don't care about money as long as he has confidence. The most confident people are the most wealthy people. So everything is playing back to the whole wealthiness. So, a lot of these women are unhappy and mad and stuff. So it's like, if you want to live like a man, you got to be happy. You got to take everything. You got to understand that, like what I was saying, you walk in a room, they're going to be like, oh, this guy is a creep. That's the word that's been thrown around everywhere. Any guy that's interested in a girl that's aggressive, that doesn't fit her standards, is a creep. So it's like, even guys that do fit the standard, if a guy isn't coming to them the way that they want, is a creep. So women don't have to deal with the whole creep thing. Like, only men that are experienced with a lot of girls or have girls or whatever look at a girl and be like, oh, she's being creepy. But most of the men are not getting as much play or has as many girls as the top men. So they looking at a girl, they'll like be like, hey, how you doing? Or give them a chance, but if they're attractive. But when you're a woman trying to be like a man, you have to like take everything in element. Because if a woman walks up to a guy, a man isn't going to think that, oh, she's going to rape me or anything like that, or he's physically more powerful than me, or let me call my friend because I'm going to go out on a date with this girl. So if you want to be like a man, do it, but make sure you have all the stuff that comes with it.
And I think that men are built to be providers, protectors, and builders. And so they're meant to provide and to work for the family unit. And the woman is more designed to be the nurturer, the giver, the caretaker, the motherly figure. So that's a very selfless role. And when these women pursue careers and devote their whole life towards working to a CEO position, and they're working 80 hours a week. They don't have any time to raise the children. They pass it off to nannies and to daycares and to schooling and things like this. That is the ego. That is the egotistical. That is very selfish, because you're focusing on the enhancement and improvement of one's own life instead of others' lives who are in your surrounding family unit. So that is a little bit taking on the masculine energy and relinquishing the feminine energy, I think. But different people have different perspectives on that, and I encourage everyone's different viewpoints. Carlos, any last thoughts before we close it out tonight?
Oh no, that's it. It was a good episode. I'm glad I came back.
Wow, we really had a really great episode tonight with my very distinguished guest, the resident alien expert, Carlos Campbell, who is making his 5th appearance here on the Austin Perry Show. This is Austin Perry coming at you live. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we strive for enhanced consciousness and enlightenment. And ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 37 here on this Thursday, May 13th, 2021 edition of the Austin Perry Show. I've done 37 episodes in 37 days. I continue to bring you content. Thank you. And I am going to keep going forward. And every single day I'm bringing you a new video. Some days maybe I might do 2 videos. But I like to talk about and analyze these different topics. I like to be thought-provoking. I like to be intriguing. And I like to bring you mind-expanding information and stories and different things to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for tonight here on episode 37. I will see you tomorrow on episode 38. Thank you so much, Carlos, for being with me here today.
Thank you.
And we will see you, ladies and gentlemen, later. Have a great night, and love and peace, and goodbye.